Hello everyone, this is Kaushik Kumar from SRIRAM Law Academy, and in this video I'm going to be telling you about 5 different techniques that you can use to improve your productivity while preparing for CLAT. Now these 5 techniques are not a straitjacket formula, they're not compulsory, they're not mandatory, so please do pick and choose which ones you like and which ones you think were suiting your style a little more and adapt those to how you work around and how your routine and how your day goes by, right? So let's talk about the first technique, and this is called the Eisenhower Principle. Now, this is named after a former US President, Eisenhower, who used this principle to a very successful degree, which is why they named it after him. Now, essentially, this principle asks you to split up your tasks into 2 different types. That is urgent tasks and important tasks. Now, normally what you would do on a daily basis is that you start focusing on the urgent tasks because there's a deadline coming up, there's something which you need to do immediately, and you start focusing on that, and you just finish those urgent tasks as per the deadlines. But the Eisenhower Principle asks you to focus more on the important tasks because these important tasks are what will lead you to achieving what goal you have set for yourself. These urgent tasks are only going to, if you completely focus just on the urgent tasks, you are not going to be achieving the goals that you are setting for yourself every single day. So, which is why this principle asks you to focus a lot more on the important tasks because at the end of the day, if you do put in that amount of focus every single day, at the end of the day, you would have achieved something substantial by putting in the amount of effort that you do. Now, but this does not mean that you completely ignore your urgent tasks as well. So it's about striking a balance between the two so that every single day you spend a considerable amount of time in finishing the important tasks that you have set for yourself, thereby achieving and moving closer towards your goal. Now, this can take let's take the example of while preparing for CLAT. Let's assume that you have identified that, say, logical reasoning is one of your weaker subjects, and this is something which you have to spend a lot more time in. But let's say there is a mock coming up in the next few days for which you start preparing for all the other subjects as well, right? Now, by doing that, you're losing out on time that you could have spent preparing for logical reasoning so that you can do the requisite amount so that you can improve your skills in that. So it's about striking a balance between the two so that you achieve the important task of preparing for logical reasoning every single day so that you can improve yourself and improve your skills in that particular subject, and at the same time preparing for the urgent task of the mock. So it's about striking a balance between these two and identifying a way in which you can focus a lot more on the important tasks because that is how you're going to achieve the goals that you have identified for yourself. So this is the first technique that I'm talking about. Now the second one is known as Chris Winfield's Dream Dump Map Chunk System. So essentially what this requires is 4 different steps. The first step is dreaming. Dreaming means you need to identify what you really want to achieve. So it's about figuring out what your weaknesses are, what you want to finish, which subjects you want to focus on, etc., and identifying everything that you need to do. Now, the second step in this process is to dump. Now, dumping it is putting it all on paper. Now, by writing it down on a piece of paper, you are able to organize it and do the next steps a lot more effectively. Because when it's in your head, it's a lot more clouded, you're confused, it doesn't have a very proper structure in it. So when you write it down, you bring about everything on paper and then you can analyze it and decide where to go ahead with the next step. So the next step after putting it all on paper is the mapping system. The mapping system is where you create a structure for yourself. So you create a system on how to manage your overall goals, that is your big picture goals as well as smaller goals which you want to achieve every single day. So you map it in that piece of paper once you have written it all down. So you make a structure, you go by steps on how to improve yourself, what you need to do, which chapters you need to focus on, which subjects you need to focus on, etc., etc. And that is the mapping part of this second technique. And the last step involved in this kind of a technique is chunk it. And chunking is the most important bit because just by looking at all the tasks that you need to do on a piece of paper, it could be a little overwhelming. It can feel a little too much at the time because it might be a lot of tasks that you need to do over a period of time. So chunking it involves splitting it up into smaller manageable chunks that you can achieve in shorter periods of time. So let's say if you have, let's say mathematics is one subject that you really want to do well in. And let's say there are about 10 to 12 topics within math that you need to do. So write it down or write down all 12 chapters within math on a piece of paper. And then try to identify how much time you will take per topic, and then split it up into those manageable chunks. So let's say chapter 1 is going to take you 1 day, chapter 2 is going to take you say 2 days or 3 days even. So identify these requisite time for it and split it up in that manner so that you can achieve the end goal by splitting it up into manageable chunks, so that you will be able to focus on one particular thing at one point of time rather than looking at all the goals that you have to achieve in one go, right? So this technique is really, really useful when you have a lot of things going on in your head, especially when you have to focus on a lot of subjects. This technique is really helpful because once you write it all down, managing it, organizing it, and making it into manageable chunks is a lot more easier. And once you do that, you're able to achieve everything that you need to achieve by setting yourself small goals every single day, which you can do with a little bit of discipline and effort. So that is the second technique. That's the dream, dump, map, chunk system, right? Now, the third technique is known as the Pomorodo technique. Now, this was created by a productivity guru who was called Francesco Cirillo. So he invented this Pomorodo technique. So what this technique involves is identifying what you need to do, right? And setting yourself pre-established blocks of time to achieve that particular system, to achieve that particular goal. So implementing it is very, very simple. So what you need to do is identify a task. Let's say in today you want to achieve one whole chapter of math. Let's say you want to finish off one whole chapter of math today, and you believe that it's going to take you somewhere around 2 hours. Now, what the Pomodoro technique asks you to do is split it up into 25-minute time periods. So after every 25-minute time period, so every 25-minute time period is known as one Pomodoro, right? And after every 25-minute time period, you take yourself a 5-minute break. And then you go on to the next 25-minute time period where you continue to work. And then another 5-minute break, and then another 25-minute, and then another 5-minute break. So like this, you continue working. And after 4 Pomodoros, that is 4 25-minute breaks, you take a much longer break for yourself to rest and relax and like try to refocus your mind. Now, the best part about this technique is that after 25 minutes, your focus starts wandering. Your attention span lasts for 25 minutes effectively for any particular topic. So after you do the 25-minute period, you have 5 minutes to relax and unwind so that you can reset your mind to go back to the same level of attention and focus that you had done in the first 25 minutes again, right? So this helps you maintain that level of focus and attention throughout the time that you are studying, which is a problem a lot of students face, because if you're working for say 5 to 6 hours continuously, that's the fatigue is something that affects everybody. Nobody can possibly work for 5 to 6 hours without any kind of break and still maintain the same level of attention and focus. And that is what we're trying to achieve here, so that you split it up into smaller chunks, that is 25-minute periods, and then take a 5-minute break so that you unwind, reset your mind, come back to it, and continue to work at the same level of attention and same level of focus that you had used when you had started working as well. So that will help you maintain that same level throughout your working period and achieve the most amount of results by putting in that kind of effort. Right? So this is the third technique, and it's really, really useful if you have to work over the period of time. Let's say it's the weekend and you think that you want to work for say 6 to 7 hours. This is something which you can use to maintain that level of attention and focus. So that's the third technique, that's the Pomodoro technique. Now, the fourth technique is my personal favorite, and it's called the personal peak time philosophy. So this is more about looking inward and identifying what time of the day is it that you are the most productive at. So personally, I do not like working after 6 or 7 p.m. Like essentially after the sun sets is when my mind shuts off completely and I cannot work after that. So normally what I tend to do is identify, once I figured this out, I start waking up early, and then I do all my work when the sun is out and during the day, so that I finish all my work during the day, and after 6 or 7 p.m. at night, I just shut off and I don't work, because I realized that is my peak time when I achieve the most productivity. So it can differ from person to person, because I know a lot of people who work throughout the night. They're night owls, and they personally like working when it's a lot more quiet, it's a lot more calm, there's nobody to disturb them, and they can work throughout the night. So it's about identifying that peak time for yourself and then focusing your most important tasks during that peak time so that you achieve the most amount of productivity. So this is something which you have to look inwards and identify for yourself which time works best for you, and then using that particular time to achieve the most amount of productivity throughout the day. So make sure that you set your most difficult and most engaging tasks during that time and make the most of it and finish your day successfully. Right? So this is the fourth technique, that is the personal peak time philosophy. Now, the last technique that I'm going to talk about is known as the ABCDE analysis. Now, what this technique asks you to do is split up your tasks into five different categories. That is category A, category B, C, D, and E respectively. Now, category A is the most important tasks that you cannot miss at any cost. So these are tasks that you have to do for the day, and there is absolutely no way that you can miss these. Then comes the category B tasks, which are really important tasks as well, but it's not as important as the category A tasks. And similarly, category C as well. You would like to do those tasks. It would be great if you did it, but it's not one of the most important things that you have to do for the day. Now, category D tasks are barely important. It's not completely necessary that you have to do it. And these tasks you can actually probably delegate it to somebody else, or you can find another easier way to do it. And the last one is the category E tasks, which are absolutely unnecessary and pretty much eliminated from your task of the day. So what this helps you do is prioritize which ones are the most important ones that you need to do, and make sure that unless and until you finish all the category A tasks for the day, you do not move on to the category B tasks. So sit down, make a plan for yourself, identify which are the tasks which would qualify as your category A tasks. So once you identify that, write them down, like keep it to yourself somewhere where you can notice it, and then identify, okay, these are the tasks that I need to do without fail within this day, and make sure that you do them before you move on to any other tasks. So what this helps you do is helps you prioritize the most important tasks. You can see a lot of corollaries with this technique and the Eisenhower Principle as well, which is essentially asking you to prioritize your most important tasks, which will help you achieve your goals. So once you finish your category A tasks, only then can you move on to your category B tasks, which will involve a little less important stuff, but still it's still needed for you to achieve your goals. So identify these, split them up accordingly, and then eliminate the ones which are least important, and just focus on the ones which are most important to you and finish them, and only then move on to the next one. Because that way you will spend most of your time in doing the most important tasks for you, which are going to help you achieve your goals, which can be anything. It could be daily goals, it could be monthly goals, or it could be goals until the end of CLAT as well, right? So these are techniques that you can particularly use to prioritize your time and make the most of the time that you do have every single day, to ensure that you get the most results out of the effort that you are putting in. So all these techniques are essentially to help you to manage your time a little better, because that is the most difficult and most thing that the most students struggle to do, because they have a lot of time to study, yes, but the thing is they get confused or sidetracked by a lot of different subjects and a lot of different things which are not necessarily very important, right? So you need to be able to identify what is important to you, identify what is the most essential task that you need to do, and then prioritize them in any way whatsoever, using any of the techniques that I've just mentioned, or any other personal technique that you have found for yourself, right? So these techniques are not like, this is not something which needs to be mandatorily done. So these are personal choices that you can do, because I've personally felt that a lot of these techniques are really, really helpful, because it helps me keep my focus and just, I don't get sidetracked when I'm doing this, especially when I've written things down. I know what I need to do, and I need to keep my focus on that particular thing, right? So these are techniques that you can use to maximize your productivity and make the most of the time that you take to prepare for CLAT. So if you did enjoy this video, please hit like on this video and subscribe to the Sriram Law Academy YouTube channel for more such content. And for more such tactics and strategies, please do visit www.sriramlawacademy.com. And with that, this is me, Kaushik, signing off.